From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
A dream born thanks to a cow.
That's kind of when we started the vision of it'd be really cool to open up our own market.
We visit Margies Market for a taste of what Arkansas ag is all about. Are more Americans eating meat these days? We dive into the results of a new survey. As a mysterious illness puts dairy producers on high alert.
We're trying to rule out, infectious diseases.
What producers need to know to protect their herd right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when the testing grounds meet the proving grounds. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A developing story, a mystery illness right now is hitting dairy production in some southern states. Dairies in the Texas Panhandle seem to be hit the hardest, but there are also cases reported in New Mexico. And the American Association of Bovine Practitioners telling us veterinarians in Kansas have also reported symptoms. Now, the association says it's impacting about 10% of the herd, and it's not causing mortality. Instead, it's hitting older cows and causing a loss of appetite. As a result, milk production declines 10 to 20%. Now, here's what we know. The symptoms of the illness last 10 to 14 days, but the exact cause of that illness is not yet known. In an exclusive interview, the Texas Animal Health Commission telling us clinical signs include a sudden drop in production with some severely impacted cows experiencing thicker, concentrated colostrum-like milk, a drop in feed consumption with a simultaneous drop in rumen, loose feces, and some fever. Impacted herds have reported older cows in mid-lactation may be more likely to be severely impacted than younger cows and fresh cows or heifers. Dry cows and heifers do not appear to be affected. In addition, some herds have reported pneumonia and mastitis. Now, Texas officials say they are working with USDA to further monitor and evaluate reported cases.
We're trying to rule out, infectious diseases, in anything that might be related to feed or water or any kind of supplementation that these animals are receiving. So we're trying to gather some management data as far as what herds are affected, what's common to all the herds that are affected, and trying to do a good epidemiologic investigation here. So it doesn't appear to be an infectious disease that we can tell, like I said, but we haven't seen anything to prove that we need to stop movement on these cattle as of right now.
Dingus telling AgDay he understands the unknown is not what producers want to hear, but they are working to find answers for dairy producers. Now, on that note, farmers are being told to make sure they tighten their biosecurity measures. We're continuing to keep watch on this story. We'll continue to keep you updated. Another story we're following are changing weather with snow in the north and rain and thunderstorms on the way for the south. Meteorologist Martin Lormore is tracking it.
Yeah, we're kind of looking at a double threat over the next couple of days. Seeing more of this snowfall up in the north. You can see where this area of these bars, which we call isobars, are very close together. We have very big differences between pressure, and that causes this snow to form across parts of the northern plains. And of course, that's severe weather. It could be seeing a handful of those stronger showers out toward the south, and this will continue across the southern plains while the snow treks across the northern plains. This will make its way into the Great Lakes, where we could be seeing a little bit of that snowfall, especially around the Grand Rapids area on that Friday. So it could start getting a little bit snowy up there in central to northern Michigan. Of course, still watching these storms continuing their way out. Luckily, they will pack less of a punch as they head into the more southeastern portion of the U.S. So we're kind of just watching as this whole system moves its way across a lot of the entire U.S. You can see another one already making its way as we head into the next part of our work week. That's going to be trekking its way across the northern U.S. as well. And get this one, the harvest is underway in Balfour, South Africa. Dane Bester cutting the beans there. He says the yields across the field are all over the place, but overall yields are a little bit down. And he said with the drought, he doesn't think it's going to be all too bad. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to have more on your forecast in just a bit.
Wednesday, exporters reported sales of 4.4 million bushels of soybeans for delivery to unknown destinations for the 2024-25 marketing year. Now, trade continues to be a focus for the industry. USDA saying total agricultural exports were roughly $175 billion in 2023, adding that the agency is working to ensure that U.S. producers get full and fair access to markets and opportunities across the globe. Now, that includes new grapefruit markets in Vietnam, increased ethanol exports to Japan, and the removal of retaliatory tariffs on a number of goods sold to India. USDA says those access points, well, they're worth nearly $6.5 billion.
I applaud this administration for doing what they've done as far as going out and working on sanitary, phytosanitary barriers, because they can be just as much of an issue as tariffs. But I also look at the fact we really haven't done a free trade agreement in this country for 11 years. That's atrocious. Other countries around the world are continuing with their free trade agreements, and so if they go somewhere and cut a tariff reduction deal, and it's going to be cheaper for them to sell the product than it is for us, well, we're going to lose that market. Now, you got to remember that not just President Biden, but President Trump's administration didn't do free trade agreements either. So if you assume that Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump are going to be our next president, one of them, we have a real uphill battle. Neither one of them is going to jump on the free trade bandwagon.
USDA's Foreign Ag Services says it did host 5 trade missions in 2023, including in Central and South America, Europe, and East and Southeast Asia. Meanwhile, U.S. Ag continues to face a trade deficit. Take a look at this graphic from USDA. It shows exports in blue, imports in teal, with the purple bars at the bottom representing our trade balance. USDA says for nearly 60 years, the U.S. maintained a trade surplus. However, in 2019, that balance shifted. 3 out of the last 5 years, there's been a deficit, including in 2023, when imports exceeded exports by nearly $17 billion. Now, USDA says that's because of changing consumer tastes, including U.S. consumers' growing appetite for high-valued imported goods like fruits, vegetables, alcoholic beverages, and processed grain products. There were double-digit gains for soybeans on Wednesday. Up next, we'll take a look at how those markets are impacting planting decisions. And later, where can you buy everything ag in Arkansas? Why this new store may be the answer in the country.
AgDay is brought to you by Germinator Closing Wheels. Germinator steel closing wheels provides a 13 bushel advantage per acre in no-till and a 7 bushel advantage per acre in conventional. Do you have enough room in your bin to switch to the Germinator?
Soybeans had a good day midweek. AgDay's Michelle Rook talks with Allison Thompson about the corn-soybean price ratio and other factors driving planting decisions this spring in Markets Now.
Welcome to Markets. Joining me is Allison Thompson with the Money Farm. And Allison, let's talk a little bit about the Northern Plains planting decisions that are going on and some of the ratios that you're looking at that are helping make those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously the first one that everyone's aware of is the corn-soybean ratio. That gets a lot of the attention from the market on what that's telling us intention-wise going forward. We didn't get a lot of movement in the month of February, but going forward, depending on what kind of weather we get for spring, what conditions are looking like, market prices could definitely have an influence because we are in the swing acre area up here. We are limited further in the valley just because of sugar beets. We do have some rotational things there, but otherwise we are going to have to start looking at some other ratios too. They're not looking at a whole lot of spring wheat acres coming in this year, but a lot of guys are worried about that as well just because of what prices have done. But interestingly, we need to start looking at that ratio too. So I've started watching a ratio between spring wheat and soybeans on what's actually going on there. And actually, they're starting to favor the wheat market on top of the soybeans. So if we start seeing a decent rally in wheat, always subject to change when we have the 20-cent move, but it is something we're definitely worth watching. And if we get a better ratio, I think we definitely could see a lot of guys pulling some triggers and getting some more wheat in the ground here this spring.
The other consideration, though, is going to be weather. Drought monitor out, and certainly we're concerned a little bit about expanding drought, aren't we?
Yeah, absolutely. Normally we don't talk about a drought in the winter. Usually our spring weather kind of makes up for that, and snow up here doesn't amount to a whole lot of moisture in the spring. But it's not only just here that we're seeing dry conditions this year, but it also goes down to the Corn Belt, and it is actually expanding in Iowa, and it's going into the I states and actually into some winter wheat areas. So if that does continue, we are looking for a drier spring, and hopefully it doesn't continue. But if it were to extend into the growing season, there's always a potential for some kind of a weather market.
And there's also potential that an early spring could impact what gets planted if we get in the fields early, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I know that's on everyone's mind. I think there's a lot of planters coming out of sheds. The guys are getting ready to roll. When we're looking at 30, 40 degree days up here this time of year, it's pretty fun. So, but yeah, we need to be aware of those things as well.
All right, thanks for joining us. Allison Thompson with the Money Farm, and we'll have more AgDay coming up.
Starting off with the possibility of severe weather as we head into our Thursday. We're looking at the possibility of all kinds of severe weather threats, damaging wind, hail, heavy rain, of course, and maybe an isolated spin up here or there. You can see the two pockets in parts of western Oklahoma and the panhandles of Oklahoma and Texas, and of course getting just to the south of Dallas there. Luckily, only expecting a few severe storms, not expecting to be a widespread severe outbreak by any means. And as you head into your Friday, not expecting any real threat there across the eastern portion of the U.S. Now, as you get into the snow depth, we're kind of seeing a big bulk of missing snow in the northern plains. This is going to change pretty quickly. You see a lot of the higher elevation snowfall in parts of the Rockies, and then you get toward parts of the northern parts of Michigan and out toward the lake effect areas in New York, upstate New York. Seeing a little bit of that snowfall, and of course plenty of it up toward Canada. This is going to be changing over the next couple of days because we could be seeing that snowfall making its way across the northern plains, possibly dropping a couple inches of that snowfall across the Dakotas, maybe into Minneapolis, and of course maybe across parts of Wisconsin. This will continue its way into central to northern Michigan. Shouldn't be getting near Indiana, where they'll be seeing that line really breaking down as we head into that part of our Friday and Saturday as this system makes its way across. So going to be seeing several inches of that snow across the northern plains. Nobody else really seeing it. And of course, places in the Rockies, they don't want to see any more snow. Not going to be seeing any as you head into that weekend. So the precipitation for all of us, expecting a good wet next couple of days. Are going to cross parts of the south up to 1 to 2 inches in some of those places. Continuing into the eastern portion of the U.S. Could see a good amount of snow, or rain, I should say, across the eastern seaboard as we get into our next weekend. So it's going to be a little bit wet as you head into that Saturday. So just keep a watch out if you do have to plant any of those crops. It is about to be that season where the crops are about to start getting planted. Of course, that jet stream still watching as we see this next little low pressure make its way across. We're watching as another one is rearing its way into parts of the Pacific Northwest. That'll continue its way across the northern plains as you head into your next work week. Woodward, Oklahoma. It's a nice day. Temperatures high 68 degrees. Milford, Utah, about the same, 67, mostly cloudy. Finally, Bristol, Tennessee. Feeling good out there as well. Mostly sunny, high 60.
How many Americans are eating meat these days? We'll have a look at a new survey coming up next. And later, we'll head to a little ag market in Arkansas that started as a dream and is ready to grow in the country.
Drover's Report on AgDay is brought to you by Neogen. Discover your possibilities and enhance your herd's potential.
The U.S. Meat Export Federation taking the message about America's beef on a USDA trade mission to Angola. USMEF Africa representative Matt Copeland recently took part in that trade mission thanks to support from the Beef Checkoff program. Now, Angola is located on the South Atlantic coast of West Africa. Copeland says while Angola will have demand for variety meats, there is a growing market for higher end cuts in Western style retail and food service.
Luanda itself is one of the most expensive cities in the world, so there's certainly, from a dining point of view, in the evenings, opportunity to become the center of the plate for both U.S. beef and pork cuts. In the retail environment, we're not talking apples with apples, so there is some premium beef represented as premium from Brazil, but in effect, it would probably compete with our utility or maybe the lower select. And so for us, we need to make sure that the products that are being offered to some of the buyers here also are apples for apples. So I can see that there's been a complete mismatch in some of the pricing shown to buyers just because of the absolutely worlds apart quality standards, quality differentiation.
Copeland says having key USDA leaders visit sent a strong message to the developing market. Congress has now approved funding for electronic identification tags. The funding was approved under the Consolidated Appropriations Act. That legislation allots $15 million for the beef industry. Now, the National Cattlemen's Beef Association saying while USDA potentially finalizes a traceability rule, its priority is to ensure producers don't incur the cost of complying with the possible new rule. Meanwhile, RCAF USA has come out against it because EID tagging isn't yet required. USDA has proposed a rule regarding national animal disease traceability. That rule would require official ear tags for interstate movement of certain cattle and bison. The rule hasn't been finalized just yet. We have a new snapshot of what consumers think about meat. The North American Meat Institute has released its 19th annual Power of Meat. The survey shows 80% of Americans describe themselves as meat eaters, and the number of households that purchased meat last year held steady at 98%. Now, another key finding, the number of people seeking to decrease the amount of meat they eat has fallen by 20% since 2020. The data from Circana shows that Generation X account for the greatest proportion of sales at 32%, while boomers buy meat the most frequently at 53 times a year. But inflation is factoring into those purchases. 73% of Americans are making one or more changes to meat buys at the grocery store to save money. Now, buying meat from an old-fashioned country market isn't quite as easy these days. We'll meet a couple in Arkansas working to change that next in the country. Years ago, Chloe Martin of White County, Arkansas, jokingly shared a post with her husband Matthew about Buy Your Wife a Cow Month. Surprisingly, the Highland cow he bought her has led them to open a unique market in their home state. The Arkansas Farm Bureau tells us all about Margies Market.
I am Chloe Martin, and I'm the owner of Margies Market. The vision behind this started really about almost 4 years ago, exactly when we bought Margie, who is our Scottish Highland cow. It was Buy Your Wife a Cow Month. And jokingly, I did not expect that to really happen, but within a couple hours, Margie was bought. And later that week, we went and picked her up in Rector, Arkansas. During the ride home, that's kind of when we started the vision of it'd be really cool to open up our own market. Those last 4 years, we've kind of just been really planning on what that would look like, but we wanted to do something bigger than just supporting us. We wanted to support local farmers as well. Right now, I've got beef, pork, chicken, lamb, and I've had a lot of people ask about emu, rabbit. We're going to add in produce in the next couple of months. We'll have fresh flowers, so it'll really have that more of the market feel. So it's kind of just a good variety of everything. Everyone who walks in here, I want them to feel welcomed and comfortable and safe and loved. I pray over this market every single morning when I come in. I have a prayer wall that people put prayers up. I love getting to know everyone. I get to hear their stories. They share with me stuff that's going on in their lives. And so when they come back in, I get to ask how they're doing or how their mom's doing, stuff like that. And so it's really built a good connection with people, and I just love knowing that they want to keep coming back for that. When they come in here, they are just truly like blown away that a lot of this stuff is made in Arkansas. My favorite thing to do is share with them where it comes from in Arkansas. I get to share everyone's story in here. I can tell you everything about them. That's kind of my why, is I want to share with people what we love, and I want to keep expanding on that, and I want to be able to support as many people as possible. Our very first week of opening, I had a man come in here and he said, I hope you know you're going to need to expand soon. And I was kind of like taken back by that, because I was like, I just started. Like, what do you mean? But just from people coming in and hearing what they want to see, seeing what they love, what we need to do better at, what we need to expand on, the dream and the goal is to definitely be a little bigger and expand on the meat section, the milk, the fridge, produce, stuff like that. We spent a lot of nights, date nights, here preparing and getting things ready and fixing stuff up. So it's become a big family thing for us. And I tell the kids, like, I want to be able to carry this on when y'all are older, because I want them to know the importance of community, farming, all of that tied together, because like I said, I mean, these stores are slowly dying down, but in a way they're also coming back together. So I want them to see that and know that anything's possible.
And our thanks to the Arkansas Farm Bureau for sharing that homegrown business story with us. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great week out in farm country.